today we're gonna do a little design work. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is take my 1.5 guard. I'm gonna clear out the space on the hair where I wanna add the design. So I'm not quite visualizing quite yet, but I just want a general area, surface area that I wanna work with. Creating a canvas, that's kind of what I think about. So if my canvas is from here to here, then I wanna think of clearing all this space out first. So I'm gonna grab my 1.5 guard. I'm gonna go closed. I'm gonna go right to the top of the crown and just roll my wrist up, clear out all this space. And as you can see, there's still a little bit of design in there. You can kind of see those lines still, so I'm gonna go a step lower. I don't suggest going any lower than a number 1 if you can. Otherwise, you're gonna lose a little bit of the depth and dimension on the haircut. So what I like to do is grab a number 1 to 1.5 and try not to go any shorter than that. Otherwise, you lose a little bit of density. You don't want to lose density under the design, especially if you're adding color enhancement, because once that color is gone, you kind of lose that depth of the design, and you don't want to do that. Because once that color goes in a couple of days, all you have left is hair, and if there's no depth to the hair, you pretty much lose the entire dimension. I mean, to each their own. I've seen barbers do 0.5s here and go super short, add color, and then again, you know, it works for them for the time being, for the display. But I don't prefer it because I noticed 3 days later, the design is pretty much washed out. To me, that's important. And for the sake of that long hair, let's get that long hair out of the way as well. We'll come in here. Now for the sake of the tutorial today, I'm just gonna focus on the design. Otherwise, this would be like a 40-minute, 50-minute long video. So we're gonna just focus on design work today. I'm not gonna go over what I'm doing with the haircut, and I'm not gonna go over the top or the fading portion of the haircut. That'll be another video. All right, so we're gonna go over first thing, which would be sketching, okay? So all right, to sketch the design, I'm gonna use my T-outliner by Babeless. And I like to stand back 3 or 4 feet away and imagine his hair as a canvas. I wanna imagine my sketch, something that starts here and ends here using the entire canvas. A lot of times when people start off with the designs, they start real small, and that's okay if you wanna start small, but if you have a nice canvas to work with, you might as well use the entire canvas. It gives the eye more to look at. So the more you give the eye to look at, the more attention it's gonna get, and that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to art. So in most of the designs I like to do a lot of eye candy stuff, so maybe thick lines to thin lines, maybe dark to light contrast, some curves, some sharp points. And these are all things that I keep in mind when creating the design. You guys will notice I'm only using the tip of the T-outliner to create my sketch. I'm not going in here and laying it flat on the head like this. I'm using it like this, like a pencil. If you go in there and you lay it down flat, you're gonna take way too much hair out, and then the lines are gonna get ugly, blurry, and kind of thick. Bang. So this is just the sketch. So I look at the head, I look at what I'm doing here. I got a thick line into a thin line, I got a thin line into a thick line. Now I can start playing around with like dark to light transitions in these lines, or I could add around these lines, I could add accent pieces. But just this alone, if you just sharpen this up and sharpen these lines up, which I'm going to do, that alone is going to make the haircut look really great. But now we're going to add dimension, sharpness, and detail. So now I'm working on sharpening each line. And in every single design or hard part or any kind of line that you do inside of a design or inside the hair, you're looking at basically sharpening both the walls of the design. So I like to think of one top part of the line as a line itself, and then another line on the back side of that line. So you're seeing 2 sharp walls next to each other. So I like to flip my T-outliner around and hit that bottom line. Resting my hand on his head, nice and stable, and straight down. A nice perforation. Again, I'm keeping that blade pretty perpendicular to the head. I'm not dropping it this way, I'm going straight down. That's what. Just putting the tool where it needs to be. You don't need to push really, really hard. If you got sharp enough tools, they'll do the job. If you've never done designs before and you're kind of sticking your toe into the shallow end, I would say to start very simple. Maybe just a hard part. Start with hard parts. That's a really good place to start. Try to work on your hard parts, making both sides real sharp, and then instead of maybe the next time you feel like you have a grasp on the hard part, you can work your way into maybe 2 or 3 lines. Maybe a slash. But it all starts with basics. Simplicity is way better than complication. Again, the biggest flaw I see is that people try to do too much on a haircut and it ends up working against them. So as I go back to the bottom here, I'm going to open up this line wider. Again, I'm trying to stick to those artistic principles of eye candy, so I want it to go thin lines to thick lines, dark to light. When you first start out doing designs, don't worry about time. Don't be so consumed with how much time it's going to take. Just work on the basic steps. The sketching, then the detailing, then the finish. You can always take more hair off of a design. You can't put it on. So I like to do my sketches with as much hair as possible on the head. I can always go back later and take more hair out. All right guys, so here I'm creating the transition from skin into a dark, sharp point to the top. And just like when I fade, I'm gonna start with the skin, knock out the skin first, and then I'll fade into that number 1 on top. And we already know what length this is because we started here. So we started with a 1.5 area. Guys, take note that I'm actually cornering this, okay? So I'm not using the entire blade. I'm just cornering and working my way back down to the skin from open to close. Just like I would use with a taper or just like I would use when I do a fade. Again, I'm going open on the 0.5. And I know this is a 1 right here, so I'm gonna go open, work my way closed, and then close all the way. And bang, you blend it out. God, that looks good. So I'm gonna tell you guys a secret. I'm gonna tell you a major, major secret when it comes to design work or anything that has to do with art on someone's head. So what I learned over the years is that when you're putting any kind of line or object into the back of the head, even if you're fading, what I've learned is you need to make the lines that are in the back of the head, and I'm talking behind the ear, a little thicker than you normally would think about. And the reason why is because when you look at the head from the side, just like you look at a piece of artwork from the side or in the front or whatever, the lines that go farthest away from your eye, which would be the lines that go around and curve around the head, they're going to appear smaller because of the dimension of the head. This isn't a piece of paper, it's not 2-dimensional, it's 3-dimensional. So if you're gonna create a line that looks even to something that's closer to the eye, it's gotta be bigger. So if that makes sense, if you guys can understand that concept, it will definitely help. So I always make my lines a little thicker in the back. I even make my guides and when I do fades a little wider too. See, this line has to be a little thicker right here. Tilt your head a little bit more down, perfect. Andrew looks like he's safe from an alien invasion over there. Looking like Signs, War of the Worlds. Sharp points like this, exaggerate these points a little farther than you're comfortable with, because as you step back and look at the haircut from farther away, it's gonna make those points look a little sharper. So these points gotta be exaggerated. Even if you're gonna do a star in someone's head, you gotta exaggerate those points. Now the craziest thing about this part of the design is that your hands need to be stable. You've got to be stable. So I use my fingers, my free fingers, to rest on top of the head to create a stable position for the T-outliner. Without this, you're going to be shaking like crazy. If you shake, You need a very blurry line. Okay, so this is kind of a trial and error thing, but like over the years I've learned that like anything coming off the temple grabs attention. So I don't always start designs here. Sometimes I'll start from behind the ear, but I try to look for the flattest part of the head to really put a design on. So he's very flat right here. He's very flat right here. So I know that if I can manipulate the flat parts of the head, then I know for sure I have control over, the entire design is gonna look a lot better. So I wouldn't start a design in someone's notch or somewhere where they have an indent in their head. So try to find the flattest places to go first. Trick here is to start with the thinnest part first. Then as you go to the front, you can get a little wider with those lines comfortably. If you start too wide, then everything's gonna be too wide. All right, let's put a little curvature in here. This will be the darkest part of the design right here. So I'm thinking we'll go dark to light. So we'll kind of do the opposite of what we did in the back. All right, so we're gonna start open with a 0.5. Again, I know this is gonna be a number 1 up here. So I'm gonna start in the middle and work my way backwards. Again, I'm only cornering. I'm working from open to close all the way back down. And you'll see how quickly it'll blend in. Blends in pretty quick. Allowing the head shape to kind of do the blending for me. All right, so I'm definitely dry shaving this to make it a little bit more visual for me to put the color into next. Also gives me a general idea of how the design is gonna look without color in it, which I think is imperative to 340s later once the color actually wears off. And I can't stress enough that when you're using a straight razor on the head to pull the skin as much as possible. Before I continue with putting color enhancement on the haircut, I wanna take in consideration this is gonna be a medium fade. So I wanna fade underneath the design so it complements the other side and complements the entire haircut. Then I can go lastly and put color enhancement in. I like to always do the design first and then fade around the design because you can add more attitude, more character to the design. You can't put hair back on once it's gone. So I would say the best advice would be to do the design first with that 1.5 area, then go back over and fade through it. Again, with art, I always say, with art, I feel like there's principles, but there's no rules. So there's creative ways to create your own style using the principles. Principles being dark to light transitions and gradients always catch the eye, thick lines to thin lines also catch the eye, and using the entire canvas, not wasting space, also catches the eye. Now, I like to focus on one area at a time. I'm not gonna go around the entire haircut with color. I'm only gonna do one area at a time, focused. And when I feel like that area is done, it looks good, then I'll move on to the next area. So I always dab the line first, and then I can always add color or move the color around once it's there. So I have it here, and then I can drag some of this color in a little bit more if I want to. So I always dab first. I almost wanna like create the outline first. This is kind of the only way to really make a sharp, really, really hard angle in the hair without a colored pencil, because you're looking at very small hair follicles, like one little dot that's supposed to represent a dark, hard line. So it's important that you can put that color to accentuate how sharp it is. All right, guys, so I've already razored it. I've already put color enhancement in it. I'm gonna spray it with a little bit of liquid razor and go back over with the T-out liner and the razor one more time and move on. So the importance of using a little bit of a liquid razor or any kind of like alcohol-based spray is to freeze the hair in place so you can dry shave and also go back over the T-out liner and get any loose hairs you may have missed. This is kind of just going back over and detailing now. All right, guys, there you have it. That's how I do my designs. I hope you guys got something out of this lesson. It's really tough to teach design because it's a lot of self-expression. It's kind of tough to teach it, but I hope you guys pulled something out of it. And if you like videos like this, please hit the like, subscribe button, leave me a comment, and let me know what you guys want to see next. Appreciate you. Much love. Until next time. Peace. Is my mic on? Yeah. Testing, 1, 2, testing.